Hi everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of season 2 of Running Denver TV. I'm your host Lonnie Summers, and it's great to be back after spring break. And it is the Rockies. In springtime in the Rockies, it can be 70 one day and a blizzard the next day, so you never know what you're going to get. And it's so great to be back, and we are going to be meeting with Becky Piper. Her story is incredible. Talk about overcoming adversity and an amazing triumph that she's had in her life of overcoming a very horrific situation that took place, and now she's out there getting back into running and hopefully going to be doing an Ironman sometime in the future, so we'll be following up with her, but you'll really enjoy that interview with her. We'll also be meeting with McQueeny Penamonte, our registered dietitian, learning about how to fuel yourself before, during, and after that run to keep up your nutrition. Can you guess where we're at today? It's referred to as the crown jewel of Westminster Trail System. There's also a lot of butterflies flying around. It is also designated a National Recreation Trail in 2003. Stay tuned, we'll be right back to tell you where we're at. Welcome back everybody. We figured out where we're at. We're near the Butterfly Pavilion, one of the great iconic areas that you have to visit if you never have. We are at Big Dry Creek Trail in Westminster, Colorado. This trail is 12 miles long and runs from Stanley Lake Regional Park to I-25 and is located in over 800 acres of open space. Right now we're directly across from the Westminster Promenade, which makes this a super accessible trail just off of Highway 36 and 104th. This is a great place to bike the whole trail or just come out and pick a segment you want to run or walk. Next, we're going to be interviewing Becky Piper, a runner who has faced a lot of adversity. You don't want to miss that, so stick around. Hi everybody, I'm Lonnie Summers. I'm here at Running Denver TV, and I'm here with the beautiful Becky Piper. Becky, thank you so much for being out here with us today.
No problem.
So Becky, tell us a little bit about yourself and when you started running.
I started running probably 7 years ago. I was sitting at home. I realized that I was just a little bit overweight, and I was really sick of being overweight, and I hated the idea of running. But I bought my first pair of $30 running shoes, and I went out running for a mile. I stopped 3 times in that mile, and I came back to the house bawling. But I went back out the next day, ran that mile again, only had to stop twice. And that was the start of a history of running.
That's pretty interesting because I can relate to that. I used to hate running, which is really interesting because I'm hosting a show called Running Denver TV. I'd rather you pull out my fingernails than make me run. But it's pretty amazing how that actually kind of flips in your brain, and all of a sudden it becomes something that becomes a lifestyle. You know, as I understand, this all got put on hold about 3 years ago when you had something very scary happen to you. And I read a little about your story. If you don't mind, share us about what happened.
Sure. It happened about 3 years ago, and I was sitting at home alone, and I was watching a movie or something. My husband was at work when there was a knock at our door. And I, being the friendly person that I am, I went and answered it and was like, "Hi, how are you?" And there were 3 very tall, very angry men standing there. And long story short, they wanted to rob the house. I don't know if they got some wrong message that we had, a ton of money or something. We didn't. But they wanted to rob us. And they attacked me with a gun. They hit me over the head so hard, they almost killed me. They put me into a coma for 3 days, and when I woke up from the coma, I found out that the right half of me was paralyzed almost completely. So, I mean, it manifested itself exactly like a stroke would have. It's a traumatic brain injury, but it did manifest itself like a stroke. And from there, I knew I had to take just one step at a time on my way back.
So Becky, that's quite an amazing story, and you've obviously overcome a lot of adversity and stuff like that. How has you, having such a traumatic brain injury and stuff like that, I'm guessing you pretty much had to relearn how to do a lot of things.
Yeah, I had to relearn everything from how to swallow, to how to talk, to how to stand, to how to walk, to now I am relearning how to run. And running is really funky for me. I mean, you might see me and think, she's not running, but I am.
What's giving you the drive? I mean, it's obviously a lot of work. What's keeping you motivated?
What keeps me motivated basically actually is my spite. And it's this feeling inside me that they're not going to take away what I had. And they so easily could take that away from me, and they're not going to. So I'm going to try and get it back.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, we love being part of the journey. And what are you currently training for, and what goals do you have for yourself?
Well, this coming season, I have the goal of doing an Olympic triathlon. That's almost a mile of swimming. I don't know how many miles, but I think it's 24 miles of biking and 6 miles of running. So I really got to step up my game on that. That's my short-term goals. My long-term goals are, 10 years down the road, I'd love to do half Ironman or maybe even an Ironman.
Good for you. That's pretty impressive. I can't even swim at all. I sink like a rock. So
I just kind of flail in the water. I flail moving forward.
One thing I've really noticed about you through this conversation with you so far is you just have such an amazing, just bigger than life personality. You've been through a lot. How do you keep yourself going?
I guess I keep myself going by just getting up in the morning. I can't think about, too much of what happened, because, then I'll get depressed and then I'll go on this long downward spiral. So I just keep going. I don't know how really, but
we've obviously had something, again, very traumatic that's happened to you, and I think nobody would fault you for basically living in your house, not doing anything, really, and especially everything you're going through to rehabilitate yourself and whatnot, and having the paralysis and stuff. And here you are planning to do an Olympic triathlon with goals of hopefully doing a half, and we're going to see you out there in that full marathon someday. I definitely believe that. When you've gone through something like this and whatnot, is I think you have become an inspiration probably without knowing it to other people. Do you realize that?
I guess. I mean, I just try to live my life every day, and yeah.
That's great. So, Becky, finally, what would you like to tell people that may have had some physical obstacles and that's coming their way, that's preventing them from getting out and doing what you're doing?
Well, pretty much everybody is going to face something physical that's going to be their obstacle at some point in their life. Just mentally, do what you can to prepare for it. And when it happens, just know that you have to keep going on. I guess that's it.
And I imagine also your family and friends have been a big support to you.
Yes, my husband has been such a support. He's taken these tons and tons of videos from my very first time I walked, which is the only word I can think of for that video is hilarious, because it's really funny watching me walk the first time, all the way up through running now.
That's great. Well, Becky, thank you so much for being here with us. I wish you the best of luck. I hope that you don't mind if we kind of follow you along and see how you're doing. I hope you check in with us from time to time. And what I'm completely taken back by is your personality is so much bigger than life. I mean, you're just going to go out there and you're going to do it, and no one's going to tell you no. So bless you for that, and thank you so much for being that. If you'd like to check out Becky's full interview, make sure you go to runningdenver.com. Welcome back to Running Denver TV. I'm here with Abby McQueeny Penamonte. Abby is a registered dietitian and is here to give us some tips. Thanks for being here this morning.
Absolutely, yeah.
So one of the things that I'm really good about sticking to my workout regimen. I'm really good about other aspects, but probably the worst part is, even though I try to eat fairly healthy, is how to really eat. And you're here to share with us some tips on nutrition. And right now we're in the spring session. Boston's coming up in a couple weeks, so a lot of people are starting to taper, but nutrition is a key area for it all. So how about some tips this morning on what we should be doing.
It is definitely a key factor in terms of training, but I think, like yourself, a lot of folks tend to neglect that nutrition piece. So if we can dial that piece in, people are going to have fantastic results. So the biggest thing that I would suggest for folks is not actually waiting until the race comes around to make those changes to the diet, but to start to make those changes now in their daily nutrition, so that when they get to that race day, they don't really have to modify that much.
So let's talk a little bit about before race day and some of the things that you should be doing, because we hear a lot about carbo loading. Is that really something you should be doing? How should somebody be preparing for their big event?
So the biggest thing that I stress with my athletes is metabolic efficiency. So a lot of folks are under the impression that we need a ton of carbohydrates to fuel our bodies, but the reality is that our bodies actually prefer fat as our fuel source. So the average person has about 90,000 calories of stored fat available. So we have enough fat, so even like the leanest athletes have enough fat to probably do a couple Ironmans. On the other end, we have about 1,500 calories of stored carbohydrates, so that's enough to get us maybe about 2, maybe 3 hours of activity. So when we run out of those carbohydrate stores, we either hit the wall, and we bonk, and we've probably all experienced that, or we have to take in more fuel, and then we have to take in more carbohydrates to continue to fuel that carb monster. So the biggest thing that we can do in our daily nutrition is really focus on regulating our blood sugars so that we can optimize our carbohydrates and fats efficiently.
And how would you go about doing that?
So we want to look at pairing up our foods and including things like proteins, healthy fats, and high fiber vegetables with our meals, and then looking at how much carbohydrate we would need with each meal based off of people's goals and if they do have any like health issues as well.
So now I'm in the event day, and there's sometimes the idea that I should just keep going until I start to feel hungry. What it should be, if I'm going to do a marathon or even a half marathon, what should my nutrition plan be?
So biggest thing is, again, daily nutrition, and then we're going to look at that breakfast, so what you eat that morning of the race. So again, we do want to pair up some sort of protein and fat, and what that's going to do is help stabilize that blood sugar, so it's going to give you what I call more gas mileage. So for example, a breakfast might be something like maybe some bacon and eggs with some oatmeal, or it might be a protein shake with some fruit in it. Okay, so you do that before your race, probably depending on how your GI system is, probably about 1 to 2 hours before your race. And then I would suggest starting to fuel probably about an hour to 90 minutes in. So not waiting until you hit that fatigue or that hunger, but actually being more proactive.
And about how many calories on average should somebody be taking in when they're on during the event and they're kind of fueling themselves throughout?
So again, that's going to be really dependent on the person and how efficient they are, but I would say on average we're probably looking at maybe about 100 or so calories plus or minus for folks.
Gotcha. So now I've done the big event and stuff like that. Now afterwards, we're all gluttony afterwards, right? We've done the marathon, whatnot. They go out and have the big burger and stuff like that. And
the beer.
And the beer, lots of beer, right? Running and beer, it kind of goes together. But then after that, I think one of the big things is I'm as a typical athlete, and maybe I have a goal race down the road, or maybe I haven't set that up yet, but maintaining nutritionally, I think, can be a real challenge for a lot of us, because we just kind of like our training. We train really well for a while, we do our event, then afterwards we kind of fall apart, and then we have to go back into a cycle, which obviously there is a natural cycle, but how do we nutritionally make sure we stay on track?
Well, I think, we should definitely be able to indulge after the race. So I think we should be able to enjoy, whether it's the burger or the beer. But then it is trying to get back on track and providing your body with the proteins and the healthy fats that will help to reduce some of that inflammation, some of that muscle soreness and fatigue that we experienced throughout the race.
Okay. And then finally, what do you think is some of the mistakes most of us make nutritionally?
I think a lot of folks don't practice their nutrition plan, so they show up and they see what's on the course. And I think that one of the things that I would recommend is check out online, what race are you doing and what fuel is going to be on the course. Do you want to utilize their fuel, or are you going to take your own? And then if you're going to take your own, obviously make sure that you pack that stuff, or have someone out on the course that's going to give you your fuel.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Abby. And one thing that I would like all of our viewers to know is it's as equally important as we all have coaches for helping us train. It's also good to have a registered dietitian coach to help us with our nutrition. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way of doing that?
I would say contact me through email.
Email? Okay.
Yeah.
And that would be?
abby.mcpenamonte@gmail.com.
Abby, thanks again for being out here today. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with a review preview. Up first in review, That Dam Run was March 3rd at Cherry Creek Dam. In the men's 13.1 mile race, Chris Lieferman took first place with a time of 1:11:07, which is an incredibly fast time for that course. For the women, Nicole Shear won that with a time of 1:26:33. In the 5K run, Benjamin Zawicki won for the men with a time of 15:49 after coming out of the Olympic LA trials a couple of weeks beforehand. And for the women, Kristen Jenkins took first place with a time of 20:45. And in the 5K Pro Race Walk, Francisco Pantoja took first place for men with a time of 24:42, and Kelly Heflin won for the women with a time of 36:12. And the 20th annual Running of the Green Lucky 7K was Sunday, March 13th in downtown Denver. The men's winner was Alejandro Jimenez, who ran the race in 22:14. In the women's race, Crystal Ann Curwood took first with a time of 25:51. And a lot of green beer was enjoyed by all at one of Denver's best after parties. First up in preview, the Grand River Gallop 5K is April 2nd in Rifle, Colorado. This is a beautiful race, and if you've never been out in that direction, it might be good to escape some of the snow and head out there on this coming weekend. And finally, the Hogback Hustle is April 24th and offers both 5K and 1 mile race. The race is in the beautiful Kincarroll Valley and supports the Bradford Elementary PTA. Register at hogbackhustle.blogspot.com. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's show. We hope you enjoyed our nutrition tips from Abby Penamonte, and as well as our great interview with Becky Piper. What an amazing young woman, and how she's overcome a horrific accident to really get back into being motivational and doing what she's wants to do, which is running and triathlon, and we really look forward to following her. To check out more wonderful episodes of Running Denver TV, make sure you join us at runningdenver.com. I'm your host, Lonnie Summers. We'll see you next time.